Hey everyone, welcome to Kingdom Builder TV. I'm your host, Kelly Meade, and today I'm joined by a talented duo whose songs about faith, family, and life encourage listeners with a message of God's presence through every high and low. Cody and Jerad of After Grace, how are you guys?
Hey, we're doing great. How are you?
I'm good. It's so great to have you on the show and talk with you guys today.
Yeah, we're excited to be with you.
Well, I've been enjoying learning more about each of you and listening to your songs the past couple of weeks leading up to our conversation today. I know you guys are brothers-in-law and you have a history of working in ministry, but how did you guys come together initially as a band, and how did you get on the path to music?
Yeah, Cody and I, we are the same age, and so we actually attended the same school for most of our educational years, and so we were always good friends, kind of just growing up together. Just because, like I said, we were in the same grade, same classes a lot of times.
Small school,
yes,
too,
small school. So we were already good friends there, and we kind of just both took a liking to music in our own path, honestly. So like. Cody, he started playing the drums at a really young age. I was involved in like high school band starting in 5th grade. So like we just kind of took our own paths to getting involved in music at a young age. And then just because of our friendship and just kind of hanging out and chatting and talking all the time, we kind of just discovered that we both love playing and writing and making music. And then we started the famous high school band. And yeah, it's been all good since then.
Well, that's very cool. I love hearing how people that have known each other for so long and then they get to end up working together. That's so neat. And I think it helps with the bond when you guys are writing and stuff too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So your music really speaks to the heart with songs like Unseen and Forever Home and More Than Ever, just to name a few. Cody, you co-wrote your new single, It's Okay to Feel This Way, which came from a really difficult season. And I can tell you that it's been a comfort to me and some friends of mine that I have shared it with, as we've been going through the loss of a loved one recently as well. So can you share a little bit of the story behind that song?
Yeah, so this song comes from a tough time in our family's life. Like you mentioned, Jerad and I are brothers-in-law. So we don't just travel, tour, play music and stuff together. We're family, right? So we do life together outside of After Grace and things too. And in 2020, we lost my dad to COVID. He was 55 years old, so relatively young. Pastored a large church in a small town in Arkansas, and he got sick. And then 3 weeks later, he was gone, and we were at his funeral. It was very traumatizing and just a tough thing to go through, because it was one of those things. I remember we were going to have a weekend get together because where we lived in Arkansas at the time, it didn't really shut down too crazy because it was so kind of out there and sheltered in a sense. And my mom called us and called my family and Jared's family, and she was like, "Hey guys, we're going to have to cancel. Dad and I have COVID." And we were like, "Oh man, so sorry. We'll be praying for you. We'll see you in a couple weeks." But like I mentioned, that couple weeks, we saw my mom, but we never got to see my dad in face to face after that. It was talking to him on the phone some, and then he went to the hospital, and then he never came out. So it was just very tough time for us. And, walking through that, a lot of our family has been through some very faith-shaking realities and different things that have happened in our lives, and seen some crazy things happen, and questioned a lot of things about our faith, and questioned at times, do we even really believe this anymore? There were times that Jerad and I would be playing on stage with lots of people in the year to follow in 2021. And honestly, we can say we were just singing songs and having a good time, but we didn't know if the God we were singing about and telling people about, if we even believed in him anymore for a moment. But God's really restored us and brought us through that. But the person in our family that has had one of the biggest, I don't know the word to put it, just one of the toughest times through it was my son. He was 6 years old at the time, and he's 9 now, just turned 9 this past weekend. and him and my dad were best friends. He called him Pop Pop. They were close as close could be, like hunting, fishing, everything that a grandpa and a grandson do together. That's kind of the stereotypical things they did and more, right? They were, and it was my parents' first grandchild was my son. So, he was getting spoiled like crazy, and they were just always together. And after dad passed away, our fun, just happy-go-lucky, loving child, he just started to change a little bit. And about a month after that happened, we got a call from the principal at his elementary school that when we still lived in Arkansas. And she was like, hey guys, I don't know what's going on with Camden, but he's yelling at teachers, he's yelling at students, he's hitting students at recess, he's walking alone by himself at recess, kicking rocks and things like that. We don't know what's going on with him, but if something doesn't change, we may have to expel him from school because it's getting out of hand. And we were just like shocked. My wife and I looked at each other like, what in the world? So when he got home that day, we sat him down and we just said, Bub, what's wrong? What's going on? And he just looked at us and he just said, Mom, Dad, I just miss Pop Pop. And I don't know why he's gone and why I don't have him anymore. And it was in that moment that it kind of opened my eyes to, like, just in general, how traumatic experiences, it doesn't matter how young or old you are, like, things can impact you in a big way, even if you don't fully understand them. Yeah. And sometimes when you don't understand them, it impacts you worse because you don't know how to cope with it. Right. And so, we're almost 3 years later now. In September, it'll be 3 years this year. He's doing a lot better, but he's different. And that moment in his life changed him. I know kids grow up and they mature and change, but that moment shifted a lot of his attitude and the way he just does things. And he still love him to death. He's my best bud, but he's different now, because of that. And that has been an influence and something that's impacted him in a big way. And so this song, It's Okay, was just one that I wrote for him, and it just came from the heart. And as his father, I just want him to know that I love him and that I'm here for him no matter what he goes through in life. Whenever it is, whatever happens, I'm going to be there for him and do whatever I can to help him as his father. And then I also want him to know that there's a God who's here for him as well. And I want him to always be able to just look to his faith and see that in me, and see that in Jerad, and see that in our family, and see that in people that he looks up to, and know that he can go to God with his tough questions. Ask the tough questions. Don't hold them in. Don't hold your feelings in. I want him to know that it's okay to just look at God and be like, hey, why did you do this to me? What's going on? Because God wants us to have those conversations with him. And I just want him to know it's okay to do that. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to cry. It's okay to go through those tough seasons and not to hold it in, to let it out and just draw closer to your faith in those moments. So that's kind of what this song is about.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And absolutely, I think that God, he really can bring people together, and he can bring music and certain songs into our lives when we really need it the most. And I think the message within It's Okay is definitely one of those. And I think it's one that's going to help a lot of people because, as we've been talking about, there's been so many of us have experienced loss of loved ones and just loss in general the past few years, So it is so important to be able to remember that we can go to God with all of that, and he's not surprised and he's not afraid to tackle those topics with us. So I really appreciate you guys putting that into a song and being willing to share your story with everyone.
Yeah, and that's the song. One thing when I wrote this and when I showed it to Jerad after the writing session, because Jerad wasn't in that session, so after it was over, I sent it to him, the little demo we had done after the session was over, and Jerad was like, I love this because, and we were talking about it, it's very, very real. Like, anybody who listens to this song is probably going to relate in some form or fashion. And that's one thing that we always want to try to do with our music, is share music that's real and represents real feelings. We don't We don't always want music that's just manufactured, hey, let's fantasize the life of Christ. It's great. It's awesome. But there's also things that we go through as people that we don't have answers to. And we just got to look to God. And sometimes we're unsure about it.
Yeah.
And, but the word tells us we won't understand everything on this side of heaven. And that's kind of, one thing that this song also, why we want to share that story with people at shows and through different avenues, is we know that there's people who are hurting through moments like what my family experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And we just want them to know that they're not alone, and hey, they can come talk to us like if they need to, right? Find people to trust and confide in and ask those questions, and just be real with yourself and know that you don't have to be okay all the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Jerad, another song that I mentioned was Forever Home. And I know that one holds a special place for you and your family as you've gone through your journey with adoption. Can you share a little bit about the story with that one?
Yeah, of course. So, probably about 4-ish years ago, my wife and I started the process of wanting to adopt through foster care. And we walked through that season of life with lots of ups and downs. We walked through that season of life actually with at the same time that we walked through the season of life where we lost, Cody, my wife's father. And so it was traumatic in so many ways. And, it was a time in the season where we knew God had called us to do something. We knew God had called us to adopt and to go down this route. But it just seemed like the timing was just absolutely terrible. Our kids were supposed to come and move in with us. And then, on one Saturday, and the following Saturday is when we buried Philip. We buried Cody and Kayla as dad. And the timing was just terrible. And, we had lots of questions about what was going on with Philip and why those things happened to him. But we also had just as many questions about, God, why now? Like our family is in the middle of this huge transition with, us bringing 5 kids into our home why now? What is going on with your timing, God? Because it does not seem right now. And so we had to make a very tough decision. That was faith or fear, really. It's what it boiled down to, because we were scared to death. We were scared to death of what life was going to look like after Philip. We had no answers to so many questions, but we were also scared to death about bringing 5 kids into our home when we ourselves were already feeling so broken and defeated and hopeless. How can we provide healing to these kids who need it when we feel just dismantled ourselves? And so it was very, very challenging for sure. And, just like Cody was sharing earlier, just seasons of life where we were like, God, are you real? Is any of this real? Like, man, it was very challenging for sure. But like, I can say that even in the midst of just utter despair that our whole family walked through, we chose faith over fear. And that's so much easier said than done. But that's truly what happened. I have no other way to describe it other than that. Our entire family chose to put our faith over our fear and continue to be faithful to God, be faithful to what he called us to do, be faithful to who he said we are. And we brought our kids home. We ended up bringing our kids home. It was like 1 month after Philip had passed away. We brought them home, and they've been here with us for almost 3 years now. And life is beautiful, but that's really that is the story of redemption through the cross. That we do suffer as believers. There is a period of time where we take up our cross and we follow Christ, and there is a time of sacrifice and laying aside of our flesh, and there are times and seasons of difficulty where we face trials and temptations, but like we have promise of redemption, and we have promise of hope that is enduring, and we've experienced that for sure through this season of adoption where we brought our 5 kids into our home and expanded our family overnight in the season of losing Philip and learning how to continue on with his living out his legacy. Like we've experienced those things for sure. And so Forever Home is a story that Cody and I wrote about our adoption story. It's for my kids. It's a song we wrote for them that the life that they used to live, where it was up and down, one house, 1 week and another house the next week, and so many unknowns. That season of life was over. That they had found a true forever home here with us. And so, yeah, it's a song that's definitely near and dear to my heart and to my family's heart as well.
Amen. That is fantastic. I love hearing stories like that. And I think that's another example of God's perfect timing. Like you were saying, how we don't understand why things happen when they do, but He knows, and He knows what we need. And it sounds like through that season, it's also been really healing for you as well to have all of those wonderful kids come into your life at that point and be able to, go through that journey together and have, the support and everything. So I think that's really awesome. So
Yeah,
thank you for sharing that as well.
of course.
So along with the new music, I know you guys have been getting some tour dates added for the summer, and I definitely want to tell everyone to go to aftergraceband.com, follow you guys on social media, and keep up with all of the music and the tour dates and everything coming up. Is there anything else that you guys can share that you're excited about coming up this year?
I mean, we've got a good handful of more songs that are ready to go. And we're excited about sharing those when the time is right, and some new songs we're writing and different things. We're excited about getting new music out. So there's going to be more music coming in the very near future and in the months to follow. And then, show dates and stuff, people just keeping up with us. We love to connect with people. That's one of our favorite things with what we do, is when we meet somebody for the first time, or they've seen us for the first time, we love to try to establish that connection, with them through what we do, and just be like, hey, we're people just like you, you're just like us, and we're doing our best to serve God together, and we love those moments and hearing those stories and things. So yeah, just follow us, and we've got a lot of cool stuff coming, and we'll be sharing more things when the time is right. So
Yeah.
For sure. And we definitely can't wait to see what's coming up and to help get the word out about it and to follow along with you guys on this journey.
Awesome.
we appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, Cody and Jerad, thank you guys so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.